Hi guys, Jen here. Hope you're all having an amazing Thursday. It's Thursday, right? My days run together some days because it's so busy all the time. Anyway, I wanted to just get on here and talk to you about cravings. As you all know, I'm a women's health coach who specializes in weight loss for busy women. And I ended up there because I personally have lost 70 pounds and kept it off for years and years and years now. And, you know, through the process of coaching and through my own journey, one of the experiences and one of the things I hear the most troubling information is about cravings and why do we have cravings and how do they own us the way that they do, and how can we just manage that? How can we get away from doing that and giving into them, right? And ending up eating that entire bag of potato chips, or if you're on my newsletter, you heard my story about eating an entire bag, hi Christy, an entire bag of chocolate, right? So let's talk about it. So as always, I have my notes because I don't want to miss anything. And so I am periodically going to refer back to them because I feel like this is such valuable information that we need that I don't want to miss anything. So moving forward, what are cravings? So cravings are basically your body saying, hey, I need this. Hey, I need that piece of chocolate cake, or I need that bowl of ice cream, or, you know, those Oreo cookies, or that, I don't know, what are some of your favorites? Chips, right? I was the jalapeno, cheddar, kettle, whatever those chips are called. Those are my favorite. And no, I cannot just have, you know, a handful, because if I start, I will eat the entire bag. And so how do we get to that place where we're not doing that, where we're not giving in to those cravings, right? So what causes those cravings? And so I've written down 4 specific things. And actually, I think I've written down 5. But I'm going to move through them fairly quickly because I do, hi Janice, because I do want to cover the information that I've prepared for you. And have no fear, I will put it in a blog post for you so you can look back and get the information. Okay, so the cravings come from an area of the brain that are actually responsible for your emotions, for pleasure, for enjoyment. And so, you know, our body sometimes looks at food, not sometimes, I mean, if you look at our back history, family, relationships, you know, we go on a date with our friends, it's all centered around food. And, you know, we have Thanksgiving coming up and it's all centered around food. And so it is a pleasure for us. I know when my kids were little, we'd leave the doctors and we'd stop for ice cream, right? It triggers a pleasure response in our body. And so, but the thing is that we're constantly giving into those. It's going to add unnecessary pounds. It's going to cause unnecessary emotions and, you know, just some of those things we deal with as a woman. It's going to upset our hormonal imbalance or our hormonal balance. And so here's what I want you to really just be thinking about is that cravings are a signal from your body that yes, you're lacking something, but it's probably not the junk food that you really are seeking. And so the causes of those cravings leads me to the first one is your emotions, right? Maybe you're craving something because you feel like you need to be full and fulfilled, right? Maybe you're living a life that, like I was, just completely overwhelmed, completely a slave to everybody else's needs and not taking a moment for your own and saying, okay, this is really what I need, is to take a moment for me. Maybe instead of that bag of chocolate or those cookies, maybe what I really need is just to go outside and take a nice long walk. Or even maybe it's a short walk. Maybe you're at work and there's pastries sitting on the table. Maybe you just need to go outside and get a breath of fresh air. You know, something as simple as that can change that cravings effect, or that craving control over you. So the emotions, maybe you're lonely, maybe you're sad, maybe you're overwhelmed. That was just a big one in my life. It's just completely overwhelmed. And really that feeling, when we're overwhelmed, we're disconnected to how we really want to feel, and it leaves us wanting to be full. The next one is stress, which, I mean, stress and overwhelm, it just seems like it goes together for me. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, most of the time when we're overwhelmed, we're stressed. And not only does stress release a stress hormone in our body called cortisol that we've heard, you know, puts the weight around the middle. It causes us to just have those cravings, right? Seeking that comfort that we get from the food that we choose. And we'll go into how do we shift that? How do we manage those cravings and really give our body what it needs? You know, are we too busy and not taking time for ourselves? The next one is just having a gut imbalance. So this is one of the ones that 99.9% of the time my clients have a gut imbalance, right? They, whether it's been through antibiotic overuse, too much sugar going on, we have an unhealthy growing bacteria, an overimbalance of bacteria in our gut. And rather than that little bacteria just sit there nicely, it sends signals to your brain that, hey, feed me, and it feeds off sugar. And so you will get those cravings for sugar because it wants to be fed. And so that's one of the ways is the gut imbalance. The next one is just habit. This is another big one for me. So in the evenings after I'd had an insanely busy day, I would sit down for Netflix and just start binge watching. And instantly I was craving my nachos, my cheesy, ooey gooey chips, nachos. I don't know what that might be for you. Maybe it's a bag of chips. Maybe it's chocolate. Maybe it's cookies and wine, right? But I would sit down and I would just eat and eat and eat while I'm binge watching Netflix. I would just check out, settle down, and like, okay, this is my time. But that's really not going to get us to our goals, and it's really not how we really want to feel. So how do we shift that? So here we are. This is how we reduce those cravings. The first thing I would say is just drink a glass of water. You know, it seems something very simple, but a lot of us are just dehydrated. And whether you don't like just plain water, add some flavoring in there. Add some lemon, oranges, cucumbers, strawberries, blueberries, something that gives it flavor so that you will drink it. The next thing is reducing stress. You know, taking an inventory. So this is something I love to do. I have a love-hate relationship with this, right? Everything I do is in my phone. But when I write it down on a calendar, it kind of freaks me out because there's so much I need to do. And oftentimes I think, how in the world am I going to keep up with this all? And so, but it's necessary. It's necessary to write it down, in that you take an inventory of everything you say yes to. And then looking at that calendar and saying, you know, are there things on here that maybe I overcommit to that I really don't want to be doing, that I can outsource to somebody else that can do it for me? You know, I tend to be a type A little controlling. I like things done a certain way, so it's really hard for me to have somebody else do it. But in work, there's a lot of qualified people that can do it for you, so you're not overwhelmed. It frees up the time for you to be doing what you really want to be doing. And so really just take an inventory. Look at your life. Look at areas that maybe you could reduce some of that commitment to for yourself. And then also just pencil in some me time. Where you're not doing for the kids, you're not doing for your friends, you're not doing work. It is just me time for you. Maybe that's a hot bath. Maybe that's a walk. Maybe that's going out and playing with the animals. You know, you guys know I love my horses. And I've committed to just making sure that I go out there and spend time doing it, even if I don't feel like I have the time. So penciling in that me time so that you have the importance of you on that calendar. Sleep is a big one. Sleep, think about it. When you're tired, what happens the next day around 2 o'clock? You're usually going for coffee that's filled with sugar, that's filled with cream, that's filled with, you know, who else knows what if you're going to Starbucks. But you're going to look for things that are going to stimulate you to keep you awake. So it's usually sugar, it's usually chocolate, something with some caffeine. And that's just going to bring you up, and then you're just going to crash. And so, you know, really just making sleep a priority. However, maybe you go to bed an hour earlier instead of watching Netflix. Okay, and then avoid hunger. So, you know, if we wait too long to eat, what happens when we do eat? We overeat and eat and eat and eat. Or we go through the fast food that we know is not supporting how we truly want to feel or what our body goals are. And so just try to avoid that altogether. Is make sure that you have your day planned out. Make sure that you know what you're going to be eating. Pack your lunches. Take them with you wherever you go. Carry some nuts. Carry some fruit. So it's just easy to grab. Okay, and then this is a big one. Don't neglect your needs. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Don't neglect your needs. Be okay with having needs. Deprivation never works, right? I hate the word diet because it never works. We think we're going to be on this diet for a couple days or a week or a month or however long we've set this ideal for ourselves. And we're on this diet. And what happens when we're done, right? The keto craze. What happens when you're done? And you start eating carbs again. Your body doesn't know how to process it. So when you cut out a complete food group, when you start eating that food again, your body doesn't know what to do with it. And so it stores it, turns it to fat. It has a place. Yes, you won't hear me say too many negative things about keto, but it is not an end all, and it needs to be done right. You cannot tell me that meat and cheese and butter is healthy. We all know that it's not, right? And I almost fell into that mindset a little while ago, and it was like, wait a minute, this just seems, intuitively I knew it just wasn't right. And so, you know, deprivation, cutting out something completely out of your life, like carbs, it can work for a little bit, but what happens when you stop? What happens when you go back to eating those carbs? You are going to feel like you were deprived of that food for so long that when you start eating it again, you're going to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, and you're going to end up right back in the same place. And I say that with love because I've done it, right? I've done it. I mean, I've lost weight, I've gained weight, I lost weight, I gained weight. And it wasn't until I figured out I'm not going to deprive myself, because when I do, I just turn around and overindulge. You know, if I don't spend a little bit of money here and a little bit of money there, I feel so deprived that I end up making this huge purchase that I wish that I wouldn't have made. And it's the same thing with food, right? It's, if you have that craving, give your body what it needs. If you're having a craving for chocolate, eat the chocolate, but maybe choose something better like dark chocolate. You know, if you're having a craving for potato chips, maybe choose something a little bit healthier, maybe some baked tortilla chips with some salsa instead of my favorite nachos, right? So, or if you're having a craving for like that fatty, ooey gooey food, and you know what your craving is, whatever that is for you, think, what does my body really need? And give that. If it's potato chips, you're craving that potato chip, maybe eat some avocado with some salt and pepper because it's got the fat, it's got the salt, it's got some flavor. You know, just kind of play with those cravings and figure out, really tune in to what you're really craving. And you know, the food companies, of course, they want you addicted. So the fast food companies, they all want you to go through the drive-through. Their food is filled with horrible things, and then it's got the sugars and the fat and the salt, so it tastes good. But that's not what your body is craving. That is not what you need for yourself. And just keeping that in mind when those cravings strike. And I think that's about it. Just really just making time for you. You know, as mamas, we are just super, super busy with everything, and we tend to just leave our needs to the side. And when we do that, we still have needs. We still end up needing our quiet time. We still end up needing that comfort. We still end up needing whatever it is that brings us joy and happiness and connection. And the food is not going to bring you what you're really looking for. So keeping that in mind the next time, you know, just use the tools that I've given you today to really choose what is truly going to satisfy you, what is truly going to bring you pleasure. And you guys, have a good one. I'll post this on the blog so you have it in front of you and you can look back on it. And you guys, have a great day. Mwah. Bye. See ya.